But he marketed it as a memoir of a geisha, and he presented it as historical. So that's why we kind of glossed over that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
Still, a lot of people don't know the book was written by a white man.
That part. Seriously and truly. I don't know what was happening in 1997 that made people not look things up. I mean, there wasn't an internet then.
His name's on the book.
Right.
You know, if you bought the book, his name's on the book.
I know. Welcome back to Making It Awkward, a podcast by people who are deconstructing stereotypes and who continue to learn about the ways Western body norms impact us all. This is an independent podcast from me, dietitian Jessica Wilson, and author of It's Always Been Ours. You can find me on Instagram at jessicawilson.msrd. You can email the pod at makingitawkwardpod@gmail.com. You can support the show by rating, reviewing it, and following us. You can also become a member of this Patreon. If you write an Apple Podcast review, I can bring my dad back on the show. Today, I bring you my interview with Kaila Yu, author of the newly released book Fetishized, A Reckoning with Yellow Fever, Feminism, and Beauty. In her book, Kaila reflects on the women in the media who influenced her and her path into the pinup and import model industry. She devotes a chapter to Memoirs of a Geisha, a book and movie that captivated this country, and the ways the book and movie continue to impact societal views of Asian women. In Fetishized, Kaila explores the legacy of U.S. occupation in shaping Western perceptions of Asian women. We also get into the origins of the model minority myth and the connections to tradwives today. Kaila, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
I loved your book. There were multiple times I was listening to the audiobook where I had to pause and rewind. And there were like a few points, both for the beauty sometimes, but also for the, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that that actually happened to you or other folks. It so ran the gamut of emotions. Highly recommend for folks out there who are interested in, yes, your perspective and how Asian women are fetishized. Can you share with us the definitions that you put in the intro?
Yeah, so here's a thing that I get asked all the time from men mostly. Oh. What is the difference between a fetish and a preference? Because they're really insecure that they possibly have a fetish. And the Asian fetish, aka yellow fever, is when, in my opinion, when a man has like this obsessive fixation on Asian women, but it's not individuals. It's just Asian women as a whole. Mm-hmm. So it could be any Asian woman, doesn't matter. And then he proceeds to treat them as disposable, interchangeable, and just like usable. Mm-hmm. And I don't think most men who date Asian women have an Asian fetish. It's just this subset of fetishes.
Yeah. And you also said it doesn't matter what the Asian woman looks like. You said, I think, homely or beautiful, just all Asian women.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it's a more sexual thing, right? So then, oh my God, I was going to say something raunchy, but I was like, all holes are similar, right? You know, like,
yep.
Yeah.
No, feel free. Yes. Please say those things. You said them in the book. So people will get a feel for you and they'll love it. So you mentioned yellow fever. You also have Asiaphile in the book. Yeah, so
Asiaphile, not a very commonly used term, but it is a term referring to a man with the Asian fetish. Okay. But I use it in the book because it's better or more succinct than saying man with yellow fever, man with Asian fetish.
Got it.
Yeah. And Asian fetishist isn't quite really a term either.
Got it. And then a friend of mine introduced me to the new term Oxford study for for white men.
That's pretty deep, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I didn't know anybody. Or is your friend Asian?
Yes.
Because that's okay. Yeah. Because I don't feel like anybody outside of the Asian community knows anything about the Oxford study. But I think that the Oxford study, which I'm not an expert on either, was proven to be incorrect.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's something that Men's Rights Asians, which is the incel Asian men, will use to, because they're really furious about what they call WMAF, which is white male, Asian female, and they'll use the Oxford study. They always cite that.
Yeah. That term seems like it appears more on social media. So like TikTok, Instagram comments. Is the incel group, or you said, what was it? Male
men's rights Asians.
Yes. Is men's rights Asians more like a Reddit situation, or do you see it like out in community?
Oh yeah. Well, nobody admits to be a man's rights Asian. They're all a bunch of men hiding behind, screen names or whatever. Yeah. It was funny because there was this feminist Asian woman, and she got doxxed by these guys. And then she went on a deep investigation, I think with an investigator, and ended up finding out who some of these guys were, who were just regular guys who worked at the office, like your brother, or your, it was kind of chilling actually. Yeah. And then she didn't name them. And I was like, well, I feel like you should name them. I'm of the belief that if you're going to post an opinion online, sign your name and your picture to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Wow. With the context of the manosphere and white incel men, does it present differently for Asian men? Or I guess what is different in the presentation for Asian men?
It's very similar. I mean, the men's rights manosphere, the men's rights Asians is just a subset of that.
Okay.
But I think the only difference, I think they're pretty much the same. Yeah. They abide by the same rules of thinking women are property and inferior. But the only difference is that they're hyper focused on the Asian woman, white men thing. And that's what they hang everything on.
Sure. Thank you for that.
And
I wasn't planning on starting our interview with incels, but I appreciate that.
Incels are very much of a conversation. I mean, the other strange thing I found was that white supremacists often have a thing for Asian women, which at first seems counterintuitive, but when you really dig into the stereotype of the Asian woman, then it makes sense.
Yeah. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, there was actually an article written on about the New York Times, and I forgot because I don't know the name of these white supremacists, but a number of them had dated Asian women or were currently married to one. And basically, I think they're men who want a trad wife, right? One who will sacrifice everything for the man and is inferior and is like a glorified servant, right? So that's why Asian woman, in that stereotype of an Asian woman, would fit that as being submissive.
Right. Have you seen anything else that crosses over amongst between Asian women and the Maha wives or the trad wife population? Do you see any of either that content online or other connections that you make?
Well, I guess that the thing that Asian files like to say is that I love Asian women, first of all, because they're submissive. And second of all, they always say family oriented. So that usually is the idea of being oh, she cooks and cleans and she gives up her career if necessary. And she dedicates her life to supporting the man's life. So yeah, that's kind of the crossover, I think, with the Maha trad wife thing.
That reminds me, or makes me question about the traditional wife and white man stereotype, especially in the 90s. I think the term was mail order bride. For an Asian woman who would just be, subservient to white men. That is a stereotype. And 90 Day Fiancé,
oh my God.
Also, is there anything that you can say about those particular stereotypes?
Yeah, and I mean, there's some truth to it because there's a huge power dynamic difficulty. They're going to some impoverished, sometimes third world country where they are very poor, and then the man is from America, a very powerful country with a lot of money. So there is the natural power balance and dynamic there that the men are taking advantage of, really, because they're coming from a wealthy country. The weird thing is that, if you go to East Asia, the submissive stereotype of the Asian came from Asia because Asians were treated as inferior, Asian women. But the weird thing is that when it comes to the West, it becomes hypersexualized, which is not a thing in Asia. And that's just from media, I guess, because there's nothing backing that really. Or it's from the fact that Western men often encounter Asian women as prostitutes because they were looking for prostitutes in, say, Thailand, or like military men would encounter prostitutes all the time because they weren't meeting regular local women.
Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of your book, The Stereotypes of Asian Women. And one of those in particular, you gave a whole chapter to, the Geisha and Memoirs of a Geisha. How did you decide that got a whole chapter?
Oh, I mean, it was just such a huge influence on the cult. I mean, it was a phenomenon. I think the book, everybody in the world was reading the book. Everybody watched the movie. And still a lot of people don't know the book was written by a white man.
That part. Seriously and truly. I don't know what was happening in 1997 that made people not look things up. I mean, there wasn't an internet then.
His name's on the book. Right. You know, if you bought the book, his name's on the book.
I know.
But he marketed it as a memoir of a geisha, and he presented it as historical. So that's why we kind of glossed over that.
You said it was used as text in some academic settings, and I didn't know, did you mean from like a problematic stereotypes of Asian women perspective? No, you didn't.
No. I mean, more, I think, on like just his history.
Yeah.
Which it is not at all historical.
That is bananas. Do you want to clarify what geisha's roles actually were in Japan?
Yeah, so if you're thinking of a geisha, you probably think she's like a high-class prostitute, right? Because that's what the movie presented her as. But they're actually like artists, and they are male catering to men, because only men at that time were allowed to go in there. But they were performers, like skilled at like, I think a shamisen is the name of the instrument.
Okay.
Dancing, and like the tea pouring ceremonies is a whole thing in Japan. It's not like just someone pouring tea. It's a whole ceremony.
Right. It's not a elaborate production to take a young woman's virginity, is what you're saying. Not that.
Yes, like geishas say that there was never a practice like this ever. And the book and the movie promotes it as a formal practice that everybody knows about.
Right.
Like they have these little gifts that, if you get one of these gifts, you know that the virginity is being sold, you know? Yeah.
Wild. And then the woman who it's loosely based on, you said in your book, had sued the author at some point. Yeah. Yeah,
he had agreed, first of all, to keep her anonymous, but he like thanked her at the beginning of the book. So it's like, yeah. And then he took so many details of her life that were accurate, like, you know, where she was from and this and that. And then like she said he twisted all kinds of other facts. Yeah. I think it was,
Wild. But yeah, I can imagine that folks out there have not examined, you know, their reading and considered both the author and done any more digging to see what it's truly like. But yeah. Speaking of Japanese women, you mentioned that post-World War II, Japanese women coming to the U.S. to reunite, it sounded like with husbands who they had met during the war. You mentioned that they were perhaps the first, like, or the origins of the model minority myth. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, because they came over here very much to completely assimilate. So I think the Red Cross had classes on like how to walk properly in high heels and apply American style makeup and like cook American meals. And they would come here and go to like, they weren't going to Los Angeles. They were going to like some podunk town in like some obscure state where they were the only Asian. So they had to assimilate to like survive, basically. There was no internet or anything back then.
Yeah, you mentioned also cooking American meals was another thing, which is wild. And then how do you think that like decade by decade developed into the model minority myth, which continues today? Yeah,
I mean, I think then a wave of like very educated Asians here who came on a specific professional visa, and there were huge waves of those. So it's very different from the later wave of like Vietnamese refugees who came and had like different opportunities because they were arriving under totally different circumstances. And I think, obviously Asians don't face the same structural racism as like Black people or other ethnicities. So they were able to like navigate in a white adjacent way of a privilege, that then the media took upon to call the model minority and use as a pit to divide against other ethnicities. So you do now see there's like within some Asian Black spaces or Asian Latino spaces, there is like a rift because of this myth. And we should be uniting against, not fighting amongst ourselves. We're like wasting our energy.
Right. Against, patriarchy, white supremacy, administration. Yes. Something that I heard during the beginning of COVID with all of the anti-Asian violence were stories from Asian folks, particularly in California, who had not really examined that proximity to whiteness. And, we're reckoning with how violent whiteness is and how nobody is really spared from that. And that was also around the time of your both witnessing anti-Asian violence and reckoning. And I'm wondering if you can talk about both of those.
Yeah, it was a really shocking time for me because even though I grew up in like a pretty white city called Upland, there were still some Asians there and I never like experienced any outright racism. There was like microaggressions or whatever, but not anything major. But then during the pandemic, there were people yelling like, go back to your country. And like they were given free rein to say probably what they were secretly thinking, the whole time. And then the worst part was that like senior citizen Asians were getting like violently, attacked. So, it was definitely like a troubling time and very, I think it woke up the whole Asian American community because nobody had ever seen anything like that in decades.
Yeah. And at what point did you start thinking about your reckoning amongst all of that?
About a year later into the pandemic and after the Asian hate was still continuing, there was a white shooter who went in Atlanta into the like 3 different spas that he frequented and shot 8 people dead, and 6 of them were Asian women. And then the Asian community felt really gaslit because we knew this was sexually and racially motivated. And I think the media still hasn't really like identified it as such, but it was so obvious. And that kind of inspired the reckoning because it was like, oh, that's like, it's strange because like I myself have experienced violence from the Asian fetish, but I'm very disassociated with it. So I didn't like really connect Asian fetish to violence. But even though I had experienced it myself, I hadn't like seen it happening so much to other women because like that kind of violence is underreported. And this one just like was the first one that got major media attention, like, across everybody was talking about it. So yeah, that made me kind of look back on my career in my 20s and think like how I contributed to this because I leaned into it because we're as women rewarded for like showing off our youth or sexuality, at least rewarded with like proximity to power and like clicks and likes and money.
Totally. And you in the book recall how vulnerable you were to leaning into stereotypes. Are you comfortable starting with childhood?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a kid, I just like was so invisible. I was nerdy, like the model minority myth. I fell into that and I was also painfully shy. So that didn't help. And I had a, very solid family, like great mother and father who provided, but they were the typical Asian parents, immigrants who don't show any affection. And then my mom, was a typical tiger mom, very critical. And my dad was very distant. That's how he was raised, so he didn't know anything else. But I was watching TV, watching the Brady Bunch and seeing these loving families. So it's like, okay. Or I'd go over to like my white friends' houses and it would be very different. So I felt like just a lack of love. Like I didn't get any demonstrative love besides providing that for my parents. So I think it very much fueled my later search for validation.
Yes. And how do you think that, childhood informed your teen years and then into your 20s?
Yeah, I mean, a combination of being like really boy crazy and really invisible to boys, and then also like not getting that kind of maternal and paternal love at home. I ended up I ended up, first of all, meeting this like a bad Asian girl who like was cool. Yeah, she was cool. So I was like, oh, hanging around with her, I was like adjacent to cool. So I became like just becoming a rebellious and doing the things she was doing, like sneaking out, ditching class and all of that. And around that same time, the internet was like just coming in with like the AOL CDs. So I went online. And, you know, there was barely anything online back then, right? But there was still like dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of websites dedicated to this one Asian model named Sung-hee Lee. And I became obsessed when I saw her because it was like, there was nobody else. Like literally there was no other Asians except Connie Chung, who's a like news reporter who isn't like what I was looking for, you know, like a Pamela Anderson or like a Britney Spears, you know, idol. Yeah. So, she was so beautiful. So I latched onto her and just started following her as like the model for all Asian beauty and success, really.
Yeah. And you started modeling.
Yeah, years later, when I got into college, I started trying to pursue modeling. And she did like Playboy pinup modeling. So I was okay with that because I had spent 5 years like looking at all her calendars and like admiring them really because they were really beautifully done. And yeah, I fell into, and that's when I started to really lean into the Asian fetish. It's actually where I discovered the Asian fetish because while I was in high school, I never encountered it. And when I was in college, I was hanging around with all Asian Americans, so we didn't really talk about it that much. But when I started pinup modeling, then there was like so many Asian fetishists contacted me and saying their Asian fetish things. Like, I've never had an Asian girl before. Like the things men will say. I mean, that's like the very tame end of something they might say.
Right. There were some terrible things yes. Do they send you these emails or is it through your blog or your something?
Well, emails, but also the thing is I put my like AOL screen name out there because I just wanted to talk to like my followers or whatever. Yeah. And a lot of them were awesome. But yes, the Asian fetishists were very much in there. Yeah.
That's so much. I'm so sorry. That's gross.
So gross.
I did look up Asian pinup models and at least how they're depicted in images that I could find. They are Asian, but also so white as far as like not skin color, but just like features when they're drawn these days. Yeah. It's the, you know, what would that be? You had it in your book. It was,
I think, like an exotic version of a white woman.
There we are. Yes.
Yeah.
Wild to me. I was not expecting that when I looked it up. But you'd also mentioned in your experience having surgery in order to get closer or appear more white, I think was how you were saying it. Do you mind sharing a bit about your experiences?
Yeah, I don't think it was conscious at all, but the Asian eyelid surgery is very, very common and nobody's trying to look white. I think they're just, even in Asia, it's just like bigger eyes are more attractive. And I think that's like maybe a general stereotype around the world in every culture. But what I point out in the chapter is that the surgery was popularized by, I think, Ralph Millard, who's a doctor, who was trying to make prostitutes and like wives more attractive to military, American military. So the origins of it are very racist because the way he described Asian eyes were like dull and like boring and like unexpressionless. So, and then I think during this time I was growing up, like breast implants they still remain very popular, right?
Yeah.
And I was very flat chested.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very much, I'm just trying to live up to the Western idea of beauty,
Mm-hmm.
because Asian women are naturally a little more flat chested on average. Yeah.
And then you had a quote about your surgeries that, with each positive transformation, going under the knife, each alteration erased a part of my old self and a piece of my trauma, which I thought, was super impactful. You likened it to tattoos, but are you open to saying more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like I had so much self-hate. I have this crack that I describe in the book with Elaine and Kaila. Elaine's my legal name.
Mm-hmm.
And I regarded her as everything I was trying to get away from. Yeah. She's that loser who got assaulted. She's like, Kaila would fight back, and she is, everything Elaine is not. So the whole time I was unconsciously trying to erase that part of me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Definitely. So with your reckoning, early 2020s, what did that feel like for you? You described some of it in the book, just the layers and peeling back and seeing how maybe some of your actions perpetuated or, colluded with stereotypes. What did that feel like?
Yeah. Well, I'm in recovery. I've been sober 11 years. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of work on that kind of stuff to begin with.
Okay.
So I had already spent years doing, looking at my resentments and looking at my past actions and cleaning everything up. Mm-hmm. So by the time the reckoning came about that part specifically, I was, had spent years doing a lot of work on myself, and it was still painful and illuminating, but I definitely didn't do it without a lot of support. So that was lucky. But then I was also discussing it with other women in my community. A lot of entertainment business friends of mine have experienced the same.
Mm-hmm. How have you kept in touch, or how has that continued to evolve and grow over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing with the reckoning is that I'm working on my self-love process, which is a lifetime job, right? I don't think that's something that you ever stop working on. But a lot of that's inner child work, working on loving and reparenting Elaine.
Yeah.
And she didn't get a lot of the love that I got unconditional love from my parents, but it wasn't, the kind that I was looking for, I guess. So I'm now trying to provide that.
That is deep work. Wow.
It is deep work. It's not very fun work sometimes. No. Yeah.
No. How often are you in touch with Elaine? That seems like a personal question, but I'm not sure if it is.
Oh, it's daily because my therapist told me to be in touch with her daily. And I'm also doing this book I'm recommending to the world is called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And it is basically a manual on loving yourself. So it tells you it trains your, our self-talk's generally critical for most people, but it just trains it to say one thing, which is I love myself. I love myself. And just, so I do that daily because,
That's amazing. I love that. Recently-ish, you wrote about Love Island.
Yeah, so basically the Love Island controversy, I ended up writing about it for Teen Vogue, and it's about Sierra Ortega, who was a very popular cast member, and she got booted off the show because people had discovered older videos of her basically referring to the racial word describing Asian eyes, the C word, let's say, and she was touching her eyes in the video and saying oh, my eyes are too Asian, basically. I need to fix them. And then obviously everyone got really pissed off about it. But then I learned that a lot of people don't know that that's a slur. So
what?
So many people genuinely were not knowing that it was a slur. So I actually believe she didn't know it was a slur when she was using it. Yeah. I think back in the day, in the 2000s, it was used in songs, right? It was included in songs, I think. She has blah, blah eyes, or I swear there was a rapper with or was that Ching Yi? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it was used in songs. Yeah.
Yeah. So you learned that part. What was the feedback that you got from the article?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the Asian community was really, really outraged. But then I thought that she was getting I mean, obviously I don't believe in the cancel culture, but I believe in like call out. You should call out. But then I don't believe she needed to get booted off the show, and like people called ICE on her family. People
my goodness.
were sending her death threats. It's like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, I think the internet's crazy, but I think it was a good learning opportunity because a lot of people learned that is a slur.
Yeah. Wild. You mentioned rappers, and I'm thinking about pop culture, something, or I guess 2 instances that I read about in your book were The Weeknd and Donald Glover, like, and their fetishization of Asian women. Can you share that with folks? Because my guess is that a lot of folks don't know about it either.
Yeah, The Weeknd references Asian women, and they're featured quite often in his music video as girls are in music videos, like sexual props, right? But there is this one particular video, I forgot the song, but he's like with his Asian girlfriend, and then somehow he catches her cheating on him with another black guy. And it shows all this gratuitous sex and nudity. So it's like an X-rated version of the music video. And then he comes and like shoots both of them very violently. So yeah, it was like unnecessarily violent, right?
Yeah.
And then he also like just has a lot of song lyrics, like she's like lo mein or something. I forgot the ones, but there's a couple ones where he makes references. But just The Weeknd's known to kind of be a little bit misogynist, right?
Sure.
So I think that on top of that, that was questionable.
Definitely.
And then Donald Glover, I don't know if he has an Asian fetish, but some online have accused him of so.
Okay.
Right. And he's addressed it. He's like
in
addressed
his song, right? That's what he said.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's been mentioned to him so much, I'm assuming. But yeah, he says this comment about how it's much easier to date Asian women because it's less political and no one questions it. Like if he dates a white woman, that's definitely like a big controversy. I don't know why dating black women would be a controversy. That makes no sense, actually. I don't get the logic of that. I'm not really sure what his rationalization is for that. Yeah. I do know that what's commonly said for why these men like Asian women is because Asian women are less opinionated, basically. Yeah. So, again, submissive, right? So,
yeah, that's wild. Do you see the stereotypes of Asian women perpetuating? Do you think they've shifted at all over time?
Oh, I think they've shifted so much. I mean, like the characters in K-pop Demon Hunters are Asian, and they're not presented as any kind of stereotypes, right? And we had Beef and Squid Game and like so much other culture, Crazy Rich Asians, all the stuff I didn't have growing up. So I think that it's really just changed exponentially more than my young self could have ever imagined.
Nice. I was going to ask you of the historically flattening of East Asian culture, you know, say if somebody's looking for a Chinese actress, like anyone from Asia would fit the role. But it seems like that has definitely been shifting and improving, right, with K-pop indeed, and then other opportunities. So it seems like at least Americans, and like especially myself, are getting a feel for like distinct ethnicities in Asia versus just having all of that be the same.
Yeah, I mean, Memoirs of Geisha was a great example, right? There wasn't a single Japanese actress in one of the main roles. Those were all Chinese Chinese and Singaporean. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad you brought up pop culture. And is it exciting to see the enthusiasm that folks have embraced K-pop, and then how Demon Hunters now has like a soundtrack on like the top of the charts this summer, which is great.
It's crazy. I think a number of the songs are like in the top 10. And I don't think this movie was ever prepared to be a huge hit. I think they weren't prepared for this. But it's like shocking to me that the number one streamed movie on Netflix is K-pop Demon Hunters. And I think Squid Game held the title until very recently. So to have two South Korean productions, or I think K-pop Demon Hunters was an American production, but it is about K-pop, which is South Korean. It's mind-blowing that there's so much power in the South Korean media, really. It's funny because I go to K-Con in Los Angeles, or I haven't been in a couple years, but the last time I went, it's a huge Korean K-pop convention. 70% of the people were non-Asian, which is like, wow, it's like crazy.
Nice. Do you go there as part of your musical career?
It was back when I was like, in the band. I think we played there once. And then I would go there because I was working in event planning for a period of time, which isn't mentioned in the book. But so I went there for research.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then what are you working on these days?
Now I guess I'm tinkering around with a second book idea, but the book just launched about 2 weeks ago. So just like really focused on like getting the word out there. My team were really interested in having it get into like universities because there's a lot of historical information in there that isn't taught in textbooks. So, we're hoping that we could get it put into some curriculums.
That would be amazing. I can't believe you're already thinking about your second book.
I know. I can't believe that I'm thinking about it because I was just in a depression 2 weeks ago. So I was like, why do I want to go through that again? But,
Very relatable. Yeah. How'd you decide to write the first one?
It was totally inspired by the Atlanta spa shootings and that whole circumstance.
Okay.
Because it's the Atlanta spa shootings, the Asian hate. And also I was on TikTok during the pandemic just posting about this time period, like, because we were very nostalgic. So it was kind of a collusion of all those situations at the same time inspired the book. And then I realized there was no first person book on the Asian fetish, which is crazy because like everybody's heard of it. Even non-Asians have heard of it, but like nobody really knows the details or the origins.
So you're the first. How exciting.
Well, there is an academic book written about it, but by a white woman, which it was very well done actually, but obviously she couldn't add any first person experience to that. Yeah.
No. So take credit for being the first book out there to do it. That's exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I didn't hear a lot of or didn't read a lot of in the book was about food and food culture. Was there any intersection of your experience and food culture? That's
funny because I'm like toying around with a book related idea for the second book. And also I am a food and travel writer. But for me, the thing that immediately pops to mind was like, there's something in the book about this one time my band was hired to do a music video or a theme song for this movie. And the movie had like an actress who was like a sushi model in her time. And I don't know if you've seen those bits where they lie naked on a table and have sushi put on their... Oh, you've never even heard of it?
No.
Yeah. No. It's a practice from Japan, but not a very respected practice in Japan. But when they present it in America, it's like this elevated Japanese thing where a naked woman just has like green leaves on her breasts or on her private parts. And then there's like just sushi on top of her and you eat off her. She lies on the dining table and you eat off her. And so we were going to do the theme song for this movie, which was like kind of a Quentin Tarantino style crime movie. And we wrote this awesome song. And, then when the director came with the treatment for the music video, it had all of the band members playing sushi girls, meaning we had to be naked, lying on tables. Yeah. And we were like, no, we're not going to do that. And we were like, why don't you just get the model from the movie or the actress who's already doing that and you'll feature her in the thing and we'll just sing, you know? And he did not agree to that. And then like a year later, we saw like a white male band had done the song for the movie and they did not have to play Sushi Girls. So we thought that was like kind of problematic. Yeah.
Definitely problematic. Probably predictable.
Yeah, predictable is probably the word. Yeah.
Is there anything that you learned about Asian women or came to especially love about Asian women during the writing of this book?
Yeah, I think I love Asian women's resilience. And I think that's all women. We're resilient because it's tough to be a woman, right? But what I just really cemented in the book is that the Asian fetish was born from violence and it ends in violence a lot of the time. So we shouldn't just treat it as like a harmless compliment, like the gaslighters like to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And if there are Asian women listening to this podcast, is there anything that you would like to say to them?
Yeah, I hope they'll read the book just to learn the history. Because as I was researching, there's so much historical information in there because I was shocked to learn it. And I thought it should be put out there more, distributed more widely. But also just, I don't know if Asian women or any women are taught that like self-love should be the focus. I think just to focus on that instead of searching for outside validation. That's a message for all women or all people actually, because men can relate to that too.
No, that's great. And then, tell folks what you're up to and where they can find you now.
Yeah, I'm just like currently deep in book promotion, still making content online. You could find my book at all bookstores, but I always say support independent bookstores, so your local one. And then my name's Kaila Yu, and you could find me by my name on all platforms. And
the book has its own Instagram page.
Oh, yeah. And the book is called Fetishized, A Reckoning with Yellow Fever, Feminism, and Beauty. And it does also have its own Instagram.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Congratulations on your book, and I hope you have a lot of time for self-care.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much to Kaila for coming on the show. I'll link to her book and additional resources and terms in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening to Making It Awkward. Next week's episode is a doozy, so store up your awkward capacity for that one. This has been Making It Awkward. I'm Jessica Wilson. You can find me on Instagram at jessicawilson.msrd. You can email the pod at makingitawkwardpod@gmail.com. You can join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month and help me support the editing of our fearless editor, Jen Jacobs, who found this interview to be a breath of fresh air after previous Maha and Levels chaos. This podcast is supported by the Legacy of Sacramento Outboard Services. And I'll see you next time.